Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, and just about anything else that grabs our attention. I am Scott Barker, editor of Compass, and Compass is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all of these topics and more. And you can find us at CompassKnox.com. Recording this here in the opulent studios of Barberian Productions with marble floors and gold fixtures and all that good stuff. Lord Seth Barber is our producer, and he rules the roost here. Seth, as always, want to know what the 3-day-old weather report is, but you can't use the word hot.
Okay. Well, I was actually, as you were prepping that, I was thinking to myself, I was going to say something like it's not as warm as it has been over the last couple days. So it is cooled comparatively today than it has been in prior days. So yeah, I think I fulfilled the test you gave me there. I gave the weather without that word.
Yes, you did. Yeah, it's this is Friday when we record this, and it is supposed to be a chilly 92 today, so compared to 97, 98 earlier in the week, it is a little better. Anyway, we'll talk about some of the things that we covered last week in Compass. We'll start out with, we won't start out with, we're in reverse order here. The University of Tennessee is going to be expanding its Knoxville campus footprint into the historic heart of the Maplehurst neighborhood, which is one of Knoxville's smallest and oldest neighborhoods, kind of tucked behind Church Street United Methodist Church at the edge of downtown. We'll talk about that. There have been a couple of lawsuits filed challenging two different laws in state laws dealing with immigration issues. The states don't deal with immigration directly; that's a federal thing. But there are some state laws that the legislature has passed that are being challenged. We have a profile of Yes Knoxville, which is a nonprofit that advocates for better neighborhoods and transportation connections between them. The two big things that occurred in the last week were things that we've talked about in the past several weeks. One is the city sales tax increase referendum will be going on the ballot. City Council easily approved that on Tuesday. And we'll start off with the juvenile detention facility plan, which passed county commission on Monday. We've talked about that quite a bit. As regular listeners know, the superintendent of the facility is Richard Bean, who has been the superintendent forever. As long as the facility has been in existence. In fact, it is named, the official name is the Richard L. Bean Juvenile Service Center. But make no mistake about it, it's juvie jail. So the Bean resigned. Bean's 85. He's been doing this since the 70s. He resigned under pressure after he dismissed two employees who actually reported some some
Shortcomings.
irregular.
There we go. Yeah,
shortcuts. This might be a good thing with medications and things like that. Anyway, he terminated them. Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs and Juvenile Court Judge Tim Irwin confronted him, and then wound up demanding that he resign, which he did. So the problem there is they need to replace him, and nobody else knows how to run the facility, and because he's been the guy. His assistant superintendent also is resigning, and she does all of the office functions, all of the purchasing, all of the everything you can think of that goes on, behind the scenes to make a facility go. She does. So they have nobody at the top. One of the issues that has come up in this was there is an oversight panel, Board of Trustees, that didn't do much oversight. Is made up, the voting members of this board were buddies of Richard Bean. Bean is was one of the most powerful political figures in Knox County. He and his late wife Lillian ran what's called the Bean Machine. They a patronage network. If you wanted a job at the city county building on the county side, you could do a lot worse than befriend the Beans. But that power has waned, and anyway, the solution that Jacobs and County Commissioner Courtney Durrett came up with was to dissolve that board, replace it with a new board, hire an interim director to work through the end of the year, and then turn the facility over to the Knox County Sheriff's Office for the next 18 months. So, and that is what eventually the commissioners voted to do, and voted fairly easily to do that. One of the things, there have been objections from some people in the public and on county commission, as a matter of fact, that these juvenile offenders, and you don't necessarily want to turn them over to somebody who's running an adult jail, and has come under some fire from some of the things that have gone on in the adult jail out on Maloneyville Road. You don't necessarily want. I mean, there are people who don't necessarily want that sheriff running the juvenile facility. And the one thing that Jacobs and Knox County Commission Chair Gina Oster made very clear is that they are under the gun to get this done, because the resignations take effect August 1st. They got somebody in place, and the sheriff was to them the most likely person to be able to take it over on fairly short notice. One of the things they made a point of saying that Tom Spangler, the sheriff, was pretty reluctant to do it. It's not part of his statutory responsibilities to run a juvenile detention facility. It is not something that they have done before. And as the Sheriff's Office General Counsel Mike Rubel told commissioners, everything is different.
I'm sure there's a whole new set of paperwork and stuff that they have to deal with DCS at the state level.
Everything is completely different. It's overseen by the Department of Children's Services. There are different standards that the employees would have to meet. You can't just take someone who is they hate the term. you can't take a jailer from the Roger D. Wilson detention facility on Maloneyville Road and move them to just directly transfer them over to the juvenile detention facility. You just can't do it because they don't have the right credentials to do it. The processes are different. Intake is different. The use of force rules are different. The court procedures when they take the detainees to court are different. Everything is different. There's really, as far as operations go, nothing translates from adult incarceration to juvenile incarceration. So, the sheriff, the way this is set up, the sheriff's going to have 6 months to put all of his, to understand what's going on. I mean, they readily admit, that this is all new to them. So they're going to find out, kind of what's required of them, how they're going to do that, how they're going to attack that, all of that. And the sheriff's office will be taking over on January 1st. Of course, between August 1st and January 1st, you got to have somebody running the facility. And what they did under the agreement that county commissioners signed off on, Jacobs is appointing the interim director, who's going to be Brian Bivens, who's a former longtime deputy chief in the sheriff's office. He was in charge of corrections there, and he is currently a consultant in corrections nationwide. And while he does not, as like the sheriff, does not have direct managerial experience over juvenile detention facilities, the mayor's office said, basically he's got, connections through his consulting work and all, and is the best available option to do this. Remember, they had basically a couple of weeks to secure someone to do this on a temporary basis, because he's only going to be serving through the end of the year. So they had a couple of weeks to hire somebody who would only be able to commit to 6 months. And so that pretty much shrank that applicant pool pretty substantially. So
quick question on that
yes.
My assumption on this would be, so when the sheriff's office takes over, it's going to be a new department inside the sheriff's office. They're going to have a new director. So it could be the same person that continues to run it, but they will become an employee of the sheriff's office instead of an employee of the county in the interim basis.
That is possible.
Okay.
That is certainly possible.
But there's still going to be it's not going to be Spangler is the director of the juvenile detention center. It's going to be the sheriff's office and he hires somebody.
Yes. Yeah. He's not going to be have an office
right
down off on Division Street where the juvenile.
I guess my point is that
structurally
the juvenile detention center isn't going to change through this transition, as far as who there will be a head and a deputy head and then their employees.
Right.
It's just they're going to go from being employees of the county to be employees of the sheriff's office.
Yes,
as this thing shifts. Okay,
that is exactly what is going to happen. One of the things that Bevins will have to do is he'll have to. They've got 10 open positions there right now, so they've got to fill those jobs and try to with people who are qualified. You still have to be qualified
right.
to do this. You can't just you're not going to take applications from anybody off the street. So the one thing that's also new about this is the Board of Trustees, as I said, they're going to be dissolved, be replaced by a new board. And this is where the meeting on Monday, everything up till then, there was a little bit of pushback on the sheriff. Damon Rawls, county commissioner, is real uncomfortable with the sheriff doing this. Shane Jackson is too. Jackson, however, was not there. He has made his opinion widely known that he's not very uncomfortable with the sheriff doing this. But the where the meeting kind of went sideways was when they decided to name the people who were going to be serving on the new oversight board. They are going to have a board of directors. The board of directors is going to be made up of an appointee by Judge Irwin. He'll make one appointment. The other 4 members of this are going to be county commissioners. That's where it got a little nuts. Rawls and Jackson, both Democrats, were selected to, and Gina Oster, the chair, made these selections. They were selected to be on 2 of the 4 on this board, and the other 2 were Larson J. and Terry Hill. They're Republicans. So you had 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats on this board. Well, some of the Republicans, Andy Fox, Angela Russell, Rhonda Lee, kind of objected to that. They primarily because the county commission is a majority Republican. There are 8 Republican members and 3 Democrats, and all the county elected officials are county-wide elected officials are Republicans. It's a very red county, as most people who are listening to this know, and they really objected. They, in fact, Russell accused Rawls of wanting the facility to fail, and he shouldn't be on the board because he wanted it to fail, which prompted Rawls to lash back at her. So we got a little heated there for a little bit.
Do we know who Irwin's selection is yet, or is that
we do not?
Okay,
we do not, and
because Irwin, it would be that judgeship is an elected seat, correct?
Yeah, but it's it's generally pretty removed from the. I mean,
Gotcha.
It's a judgeship. It's generally pretty removed from that. That's one of those things where nobody knows.
right.
Yeah, they see R or D, and that's who they vote for.
Right. Well, it doesn't. But I would say it doesn't lack some partisanship in the judge races.
No. In fact, it would be entirely plausible and entirely likely that he will appoint someone who is actually a who might vote Republican.
Right.
Wouldn't be a Republican official like Rawls and or like
Jackson,
Hill and Jay, or a Democrat like Democratic official like Rawls or Jackson. Anyway, they went back and forth over that. Fox putting out a substitute motion wanting to replace Rawls with Rhonda Lee, who is a Republican, who is a defense attorney, criminal defense attorney, and so she would, as he pointed out, would bring some expertise to that board. A very close vote, but the Republican majority voted to reject that.
Structurally, did Rhonda vote in that vote, or is that one that she abstains from because it involves her?
No, she didn't abstain. She voted on it.
Is that normal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Adam Thompson, who's represents East Knox County, was kind of summed up everything is that this isn't a this is not a partisan thing. This is what's best for the kids kind of thing, and so he didn't think that so he voted to against Fox's proposal, which did fail, but it was on a 4-5 vote. Kim Frazier abstained, and as I said, Jackson wasn't there, so they only had 10 members present. Then commissioners then approved that original slate, Rawls, Jackson, Hill, and Jay, and on a 7-3 vote, the three Republicans who opposed the Democrats being involved were the only three no votes. So that kind of cleared that up, but it was kind of an interesting little partisan dust up at the at the kind of the conclusion of all that, because all this is pretty much over. And so to recap, there's a new interim superintendent for the juvenile facility. The sheriff will take over January 1st. You've got a new oversight board, and one of the other provisions is that they're going to engage the Community Technical Advisory Service of the University of Tennessee to study not only this facility but best practices statewide to try to come up with a long-term solution. The sheriff's office may or may not be the real long-term solution here. At the contract is going to be for 18 months. At the end of that period, the sheriff can say, "Hey, juvenile work ain't for me," and it'll be a different sheriff. It won't be Spangler. There'll be an election between now and then. The county commission can say, "We don't want the sheriff to do this anymore." There could be, from this study, a better way. They come up with a way they think would be better than having the sheriff run this facility, and they could adopt that, and then the sheriff would be out, and they would have a new structure put in. One of the things that's interesting is there's 17 juvenile facilities in the state of Tennessee that are the same or similar to the Bean Center, and it's split. There are the largest number of them are run by sheriff's offices, but then juvenile court runs some in some places. There are even a couple of private prison companies that run juvenile facilities. Jacobs dismissed that out of hand. There's just no way that he was going to support that. So anyway, so that those changes will start. The Bevins will start in. Actually, he's going to start pretty soon because he's going to need to soak up whatever Bean will share with him as far as running that center. Then he's going to take over till January 1st when the sheriff does. The other big news that happened in the political world was the sales tax referendum. City Council approved putting a measure on the ballot November 4th, the general election in the city, to raise the sales tax, the local option sales tax by half percentage point, which would make it take the overall sales tax to the state maximum of 9.75%. Most of the counties around Knox County do that. If you go to Tanger outlets in Sevier County, that you're going to be paying 9.75% there. Right now in Knox County, you pay 9.25%, and in the city of Knoxville, you do too. This increase will only affect the city of Knoxville. Knox County has not, and officials have said they will not join in this, which means that businesses in the city of Knoxville will collect the additional tax. Businesses outside the corporate limits of the city of Knoxville will not.
I always think it's important to add on this part is that you could quote the correct percentage of, but it's like 70-80% of
68%
of sales tax collected in Knox County are in the city limits.
Right, and that's because in, especially in the Victor Ashe era,
right.
A lot of finger annexations. If you look at a map of the city of Knoxville, one thing you'll notice is that there at East Knoxville, there's Interstate 40 going east is inside the city limits, all the way out to Straw Plains, and all the area around the exit at Straw Plains is inside the city limits.
Right, I always do out here, North Shore Drive all the way down to Mississippi Parkway and all the shopping centers down there at Mississippi and North Shore.
Yeah, North Shore Town Center is inside the city limits.
Right.
Turkey Creek
is half, and then the other
about half of it's or actually a little bit more than half is inside the city limits. Now, Turkey Creek, they requested that the owners did when they were developing Turkey Creek. That wasn't actually a finger annexation, but it was property that was outside the corporate limits of the city of Knoxville for a long time. Anyway, the rationale for voting no is pretty easy. You don't like taxes. It is a regressive tax, so it does affect low-income households a little bit heavier than higher-income households. So that's a pretty straightforward thing. The argument for approving this, and remember, the voters are going to be the ones that do it. The politicians just put it on the ballot, but the voters are going to decide whether it passes or not. If it does pass, it would raise $47 million in new revenues every year. And they've already released, the Mayor Andy Buchanan's administration has already released kind of a spending plan for that extra money. It would go $10 million of it would go to affordable housing, which would more than double what the city puts into affordable housing now. Then the others would be mostly things to benefit neighborhoods in each council district. They have a spending plan for each district, and it would go to sidewalks, go to greenways, it would go to parks, it would go to city facilities within those districts, things like that. That would be, they in fact try to couch this as a neighborhood infrastructure tax, is kind of what the city officials are saying. And the other thing is that they're saying is that this is one tax, unlike the property tax. Property taxes, property owners inside the city limits of Knoxville are the only ones who pay it. The sales tax increase, not only do the city residents pay for it, but a large amount, and they don't know exactly how much, is paid for by people outside the city limits.
Right, which goes back to that's why I like to put that percentage up all the time, because persons like myself who live in Knox County will be paying this tax because at least 70% of my shopping takes place inside the city limits, which will have this tax applied. Or inversely, the other way is all three of my locations for my business are inside the city limits, so all three of them will be collecting that tax, even though I am a county resident. And then, of course, people outside of Knox County, people outside of East Tennessee are coming to visit for one reason or the other of all the cool, fun, different activities we have going on, and they'll be paying this tax as well. Right.
So basically what you're saying is if you want to mess with Seth, vote yes.
I probably of all the fun paperwork, bureaucratic things I get to do on a daily basis, I promise changing some tax code stuff for me is not high on my list of things I'm worried about. It's not a hard one. The one thing the state of Tennessee is really, really good at is collecting the taxes.
Yeah.
And they make that real easy for us to make sure we get it to them more or less correctly.
All right. Well, anyway, as we said, the voters are going to be the ones who approve or reject the sales tax. Of course, there are city council candidates in this election. Now, they have a lot of them have weighed in. A lot of them are against the sales tax increase. Most of the council members, the sitting council members, all of whom, with one exception, Debbie Helsley, all the other city council members are term limited. They're either leaving office this year or they're leaving office 2 years from now, and most of them, they haven't really said that they're for. I think several of them are, because it does provide millions of dollars for their individual districts. I mean, these are things, traffic calming, things like that. These are things that are actually would be funded. A lot of this would be sidewalks around schools. Most of them around schools. The parental responsibility zones.
That's one of those things when you talk to city councilors about stuff. I would guess for all of them, one of the most common things asked for by their constituents are things like these, and they, and so they know that this is stuff that people want because people ask for it constantly. Yeah,
sidewalks is one example,
right?
And while sidewalks will get added when there are big projects that are going on, they'll get the developer to throw in sidewalks, things like that. But there's really not a whole lot of money for without this new influx of money. There's not really a whole lot for new sidewalks, and new sidewalks are very expensive. It's one thing to repairs are one thing, but new sidewalks cost about $1 million a mile. It's a lot of money. And the other things, traffic calming. They basically the city pays for traffic calming as they can. There might be some money available, might not be. There's not a real there's no real dedicated stream of money that goes to traffic calming. But that's one of the things that residents ask for on a regular basis, and it's one of those things that when you're driving through a neighborhood that has them, you kind of get annoyed.
Right.
But let me tell you,
if you live there, you love them.
I live on a street that has had traffic calming installed since I moved there.
Right.
And it has made a world of difference.
Right. And for reference, when we say traffic calming, we're talking about speed bumps. We're talking about some of those kind of pseudo roundabouts at some of the intersections.
Right.
And
one of the
dedicated crosswalks, like real clear, traffic calming, I think, is a nice way to say slowing people down.
Yes.
Traffic down.
Well, traffic calming. Calm. Another thing that
I can drive fast and be calm at the same time.
Another, well, that's one of those qualities that make you special.
Yeah, that's right.
But another thing is having these kind of concrete things that kind of on the side of the road,
right?
Where it prevents you from parking there or whatever, and you just go straight. You can and whenever there's anything. I know on my street, before they put in traffic calming, people did not park on the street because drivers would fly up and down the street,
right,
and hit you.
Right.
I witnessed several wrecks where they were texting or whatever, and they veered off and smashed into vehicles, and it was pretty much a mess, but one of the things is when you drive down the street, that visual of having cars parked along the side makes you slow down. We didn't have that, and now they put out some of those bump outs,
right,
which are a visual thing to keep you from flying. And then those bump outs have made people feel safer about parking on the street, so they park on the street. And I live in a very urban neighborhood, and parking on the street is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And traffic has slowed down considerably. So, I can understand why people clamor for that. And like I said, the city doesn't really has never had a dedicated pool of money that goes to that. It's kind of been like, if we have money left over, we can throw in some traffic calming.
Right. And how often do we have money left over?
Well, they've had enough every now and then. I mean, you've got, you got leftover asphalt, stuff like that. Anyway, we will be following, obviously, that as part of our election coverage at CompassKnox.com. And one of the it'll be interesting to see how people line up in favor or against it, and whether they'll actually actively campaign in favor or against.
Right. That's what I'm very curious to see, if some groups pop up that are advocating one way or the other, publicly spending, campaign dollars like a candidate would, but for this item. I'm curious to see as those start solidifying, if you will.
Funny you should mention that. Nice segue.
I try.
There is an organization that is a fairly new nonprofit called Yes Knoxville. They formed just a couple of years ago. They advocate for better neighborhoods. They want more choices in neighborhoods. They advocate for transportation, getting to and between neighborhoods, all types of transportation, bus transportation, bike lanes, greenways, those kinds of things. And they advocate for community spaces. They're Dustin Durham was the founder of Yes Knoxville. And Yes Knoxville has been going to city council meetings, planning commission meetings, those kinds of things, advocating for these measures. They're very much in favor of the middle housing initiatives that the city has put forward, and they primarily focus on the city. But Durham was at last week's city council meeting, and he said that he gave a full-throated endorsement of the sales tax referendum, was talking about the benefits to neighborhoods, that they really do align with the Yes Knoxville's benefits. I mean, it's one of those things where, if you had you ran a tennis club and the city decided they were going to build new tennis courts all at every park in the city, you'd be all for it, because that's exactly what you want to do. It's similar to that, because these neighborhood improvements that the city wants to make with this funding they do coincide almost exactly with what Yes Knoxville wants to do. And Durham kind of made another point, and the city's tried to make this point as well, is that we're talking about a 0.5% increase, which is very, very minimal. Will not apply to food and food ingredients, just like the state sales tax doesn't apply to that. And according to city estimates, if you make $50,000 a year, it's going to cost you an additional $7 a month. And obviously, the less you spend, the less extra you'll pay. But of course, the less you make, the less you can afford to pay anything. But anyway, the Durham was saying that $7 a month was a small price to pay for the sidewalks in their schools, for safety, more green space, traffic calming to prevent crashes and injuries and perhaps even deaths. So they are out there advocating for that. It's an interesting group of people. Some of them are professionals. Ellen Zaviska is a former planner with the City of Knoxville and the Knox County Planning Commission, and she is one of the board members there. She goes to speak at the Planning Commission and City Council when zoning matters come up. That is her wheelhouse, as it were, and they've got kind kind of 5 areas of focus. They call them campaigns. One is to promote middle housing. One is to better utilize land development, and they are pretty unashamedly in favor of greater density in neighborhoods. Then pedestrian linkages, fancy way of saying sidewalks and greenways. Better budgets for bike lanes and buses, and better standards for the city's infrastructure. And they think that one of their goals is to allow duplexes to be built in the traditional single-family house neighborhoods, the RN1 and RN2 zones in the city of Knoxville, and have that be something they can do by right. They can do it now, but they have to get special approval to do it from the Planning Commission. They're saying, well, it should be, a duplex should be like a single-family house, and if you own property, you should have the right to build that without doing anything special other than getting your regular permits. So, anyway, yes, Knoxville, they've been really increasingly vocal, and it's a little early to say if they've moved the needle a whole lot. They do get a lot of pushback because a lot of times things like middle housing or increased density, they'll get pushback from neighborhoods. So they're not a universally beloved organization by any stretch of the imagination. But they say they try to look at this as a kind of a teachable moment, so they can discuss these issues of density and transportation safety and those kinds of things. So it really doesn't discourage them that they do that. Anyway, they're also a fairly young group of folk for this kind of thing. So they have all kinds of outreach programs. They have basically a bus pub crawl the other day on Magnolia, where you could learn about what they do, take a bus to a couple of different brew pubs, and enjoy that. Anyway, saying yes to yes Knoxville will be a group that we will hear from all during this this campaign, or they're not campaign necessarily, but all during the election cycle up until November 4th, when, as we said, city voters will decide whether to approve that property tax increase. Other thing that happened this week, this was more of a on the state level. The 2 lawsuits were filed in recent. Actually, one of them was filed more than a week ago, but 2 lawsuits have been filed to challenge immigration laws in Tennessee. One is the Southeastern Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, which is a mouthful, but the Lutherans have filed a lawsuit that goes after a state statute recently passed that makes it a felony to profit from harboring or sheltering undocumented immigrants, and that infringes on their religious freedom. It also is unconstitutional. The law was passed. None of our local legislators sponsored it. It was sponsored by Brent Taylor out of Memphis, state senator, and state rep Chris Todd out of Madison County, outside of Nashville. Anyway, they they said that this bill was aimed at human trafficking, and that it did not think that they did not think that it would apply to things like charities or churches or anything like this. But the Lutheran Synod attorneys are arguing that the way that it's worded, it's kind of broadly worded, that if you provide services to undocumented immigrants and you raise money for your operations, in other words, you pass the collection plate,
right.
Then they think you could be prosecuted under this law because it was so broadly written, and that's it's one of those things where their argument is these lawmakers were focused on one thing, and I think that doubt that the Lutheran Synod would be in favor of human trafficking. But they were focused on that, but did not. Apparently, the lawsuit says that the language is just such that they apparently didn't think that about it applying to other situations like this, and so they have filed that lawsuit. There are 5, just FYI, 5 local Knoxville congregations in the Southeastern Synod. Their parent organization is the one bringing the lawsuit. Anyway, so another lawsuit. This is a completely separate one. The ACLU of Tennessee filed it, and it's aimed at a law that would punish local officials for supporting policies, at odds with the state's priorities. The ACLU says blatantly unconstitutional. If you either pass or just vote, if you vote in favor of anything that could be interpreted as creating a sanctuary city or sanctuary county or anything like that for undocumented immigrants, that you could be charged with that. It's a felony, a Class E felony. The ACLU said this is the first known instance in American history where a state has imposed felony liability on local officials simply for the viewpoint expressed in their votes. End quote. And that is, that's their basis for filing the lawsuit. That they filed the lawsuit on behalf of 7 members of the Metro Council in Nashville, which is the favorite local legislative body of the Republican supermajority in the General Assembly.
Favorite.
Yes, very much so. Anyway, that lawsuit has been filed. We'll follow that as best we can. It's one of those things that everything will happen outside of Knox County, but will have a direct effect on Knox County in the city of Knoxville. So we'll do that. Speaking of things that the state or a state entity is doing in Knoxville, it affects Knoxville, is the University of Tennessee is going to, specifically the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, is going to expand more or less into the Maplehurst neighborhood of Knoxville. Maplehurst is, for those who don't know, Maplehurst is a very small, somewhat historic. Not everything there is historic, but a very small neighborhood between Henley Street, at where Church Street United Methodist Church is, south of Cumberland Avenue, to Second Creek, which is the historic dividing line between the University of Tennessee campus and the downtown Knoxville. They are not buying the property. There's about a 6.5 acre property there. That's the Maplehurst Park Apartments. Several of the apartment buildings are historic. Some of them used to be houses, but they're converted into apartments. It's not every older apartment building in Maplehurst. There are still a few that aren't part of this, but it's about a dozen buildings, 199 apartments. This neighborhood, most of these are older. Like I said, they're historic, and it's a neighborhood that has a well-earned reputation for kind of being a bohemian enclave. There are a lot of students who live there. A lot of artists, though, writers, musicians, those kinds of things. So it's been and those who live there love it as it is, as kind of a little funky corner of Knoxville that has been there has been some encroachment of development down there. The game day apartments or game day development on the side of the hill from Second Creek up, went in a few years ago. More modern apartments and condos there to take advantage of this proximity to the university. But the core of Maplehurst, the historic core, has been maintained. But UT is going to get control of it. Although they're not buying it directly, there is an organization called the University Financing Foundation, and they go by the acronym TUFF, TUFF. And TUFF is based out of Atlanta. It got its origins at Georgia Tech, and what they do is they go in and help universities with land acquisition and things like that. They can be a little bit more flexible than especially public universities can be, but they go in and do that. What they're going to do is they're going to buy the property. About $45 million is what they estimate the cost is going to be. So they're going to buy the property. They're going to hold it. They're going to manage it. They're going to hold it, and they're going to manage it basically on behalf of UT, even though UT won't own it. The UT programs might go into some of the buildings, or they might build new buildings that are that would house UT programs. They're talking about maintaining the residential flavor of it, and having, so there might be some of the housing might, as the leases expire on people who currently live there, they might turn those apartments over to graduate students, for example, and things like that. The UT has said that they want to maintain the historic integrity of the neighborhood. That doesn't mean they're going to keep it intact the way it is, but that's what they say. The TUFF is enabled to not only lease out property, but if they want to sell a portion of it, say there's a lot there that they can sell to or a building they can sell to a research company that wants to be affiliated with the University of Tennessee. The core thing is whatever they do with it needs to be affiliated or benefit the university in some shape, form, or fashion. So,
with its third-party status, does it say on the tax rolls then?
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
They're a nonprofit. TUFF is, so right now it stay on the tax rolls. What eventually is, after 5 years, UT can buy the property from Tough, and they're going to have to pay the holding costs. Now, Tough is going to charge holding costs. Then UT has the option to buy the property after 5 years, and again, if they don't buy it after 5, Tough will keep it on its books for another 5 years. UT can buy it then. Then after that, I think all bets are off. But Tough is it's kind of an interesting organization. Like I said, they started out at Georgia Tech. They work with the universities. They've actually worked with the University of Tennessee before. One of the things that they did, and this was something that nobody caught really when it happened. But last December, Tough bought Cherokee Mills, the office complex out at the corner of Sutherland Avenue and Concord Street in Marble City. Anyway, they bought it for $20.7 million, and then turned around 2 months later, and this is what made the news. Tough's purchase didn't really, but then they turned around and leased, made an agreement to lease Cherokee Mills to the university. And so as the tenants of Cherokee Mills, as their leases expire, UT can expand into it. So that's kind of an alternative way for UT to expand its Knoxville campus, and Tough was instrumental in making that happen. Tough is also involved in another transaction that UT is engaged in, and that is the former Walmart building in University Commons. University Commons is at the western end of campus. There's a Publix in there. There used to be a Walmart in there. There's a pet store in there. There's a Fieldhouse Social sports bar is in there. What Walmart closed a while back, and so Tough is buying, and another development company whose founder is affiliated with Georgia Tech, is a former Georgia Tech basketball player. They are buying the Walmart building. What it is, and one of the weird things about this is that University Commons is set up like condos. So Walmart owns it, and Publix owns its space. Fieldhouse Social, they own that space. So so because of that, that's kind of an unusual arrangement, and Tough is going to be buying it, and UT though is going to be the one to use it, and UT is going to use it for student recreation. They're going to lease this space from Tough. So, but it's 120,000 square feet. They're going to use it for, like I said, student recreation. But I don't know what that means. Basketball courts, handball courts. I don't know. Whatever they're going to do. But both of these things, the Maplehurst purchase and the Walmart lease agreement with the University Commons will be on the agenda of the UT Board of Trustees, and this is kind of our transition to next week. The Board of Trustees is meeting in Chattanooga on the Chattanooga campus Monday and Tuesday. This is these deals. A couple of things. This is their annual meeting. They'll be setting the budget. They'll be talking about a whole bunch of other stuff, and we'll be covering those as well. Of course, Independence Day is at the end of the week, and so we will be looking forward to the 4th of July holiday. Now, one thing that I wanted to add here at we're about to wind up, but one thing I wanted to add is personal privilege. Maplehurst deal. I said the Maplehurst neighborhood was historic. It's very old. One of the people who the Maplehurst is named after a mansion that was built there by William Sanford, and who was a businessman in the 1800s in Knoxville. And his son, who also lived up there for a while, was Edward Terry Sanford. And Edward Terry Sanford is one of my favorite, probably my very favorite, overlooked Knoxvillians. He was he was a scion of this business, this prominent business family of the 1800s. He went to UT, went to Harvard Law School, and then went into an extraordinary legal career. He is Knoxville's only Supreme Court justice, and but he's got other claims to fame. It actually has a real good claim to fame as a justice, as he served as a judge, federal judge for a while. He served as a judge here. He was a federal judge for a while, but he was also the assistant attorney general was the lead prosecutor in the only criminal case ever to have as its original jurisdiction the United States Supreme Court. It was the Supreme Court can try cases, and instead of just hearing previous decisions, they can do that. And this is the only one that's ever happened, and it was out of Chattanooga. There was an African American man who was accused of rape. He was arrested and put in the Hamilton County Jail in Chattanooga. The sheriff down there basically let a mob come into the jail, take this man out of his cell, took him up to the Walnut Street Bridge, and strung him up and shot him and did all kinds of horrible things to him. So the Supreme Court, they were horrified. Their ship defied an injunction that they put down, and the Supreme Court got mad at him, and so they decided the trial would be the civil rights trial would be there, and that they would do it. And Sanford was tapped to be the lead prosecutor, and they obtained a conviction, and so he had a claim to fame there. But he was also named to the Supreme Court later, and as a member of the Supreme Court, his overall career was, he's just a regular Supreme Court justice. But he wrote the majority opinion of a very important case, not in and of itself. It was Gitlow versus New York. It was a free speech case. But up until this time, the U.S. Constitution was not seen as applying to state laws. States could do things that they could restrict speech. They could, if they wanted to, they didn't. But if they wanted to, they could establish an official state religion. They could, they could ban firearms. They could do all kinds of things because the Constitution was seen as only applying to federal laws, not the U.S. Constitution was seen as only applying to federal laws. Now, most state constitutions did mimic the U.S. Constitution, but as a matter of law, the U.S. Constitution did not apply to the states. Sanford's opinion the majority opinion that Sanford wrote in Gitlow was the first instance of that the United States Supreme Court applied the Constitution to a state law. It was the free speech section of the First Amendment. up until then, like I said, no. And this was a process called incorporation, and so it was the first law that incorporated first ruling that incorporated a portion of the the Bill of Rights to the states, and it went. It did it through a mechanism, the mechanism in the 14th Amendment, which was the due process section of the 14th Amendment. Anyway, since then, many laws have been, sections of the Constitution have been incorporated, and for some reason they didn't incorporate them all at once. It was just, you've got to go piecemeal, and the most recent one is one that surprises a lot of people. The Second Amendment was not incorporated to apply to the states until 2010. Everybody would always talk about, I've got a right under the Second Amendment to carry a firearm, without a permit or whatever it was. Nobody did. Nobody had a right under the Second Amendment to do anything other than be protected from a federal law. The states were permitted and did restrict firearms like crazy. And in the McDonald versus Chicago case, however, the Supreme Court ruled that yes, you do have a personal right, individual right to carry, to possess a firearm, and it applies to the states. The states can't keep you from doing that either. And so the Second Amendment was incorporated to the states in 2010. That is the your fun fact of the day. But anyway, I wanted to take a moment to give a shout out to Edward Terry Sanford, who, like I said, is kind of an unsung Knoxvillian, and because of that is one of my favorite Knoxvillians. So I will leave you with that. Now, I want to thank y'all for listening to Compass Points. If you're interested in Knoxville, Knox County politics, the kinds of stuff that I talked about today, to see the actual reporting of it, because there's a lot more in our print reporting of it than I was able to talk about today. If you are interested in that, visit us at CompassKnox.com. You can subscribe there. It's $12 a month or $120 a year, and you get access to our website and our daily newsletter with all this information. So I want to say thanks to Lord Seth Barber, our esteemed producer, and
it's hot outside. It's hot.
It's hot. You can say it now. and to Will Wright, who composed and performed our music for the show. And so long for now. I'll be back next week with another installment of Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barberian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barberian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.